What's going on, good people? I'm your host, Shay, and this is Shay's Unfiltered Podcast. Today's, guys, we are going to talk about love languages. Do we really know our partner's love language? Imagine you thinking you killing it in a relationship by sending love letters and different type of cards and gifts to your partner just to figure out that all they wanted you to do is wash the dishes. Are you guys speaking each other's same love language? Let's tune into it. For me personally, I think that love languages change over time. I don't believe that some people carry the same love language throughout their whole relationship. And if they do, that's fine too. I do believe that people tend to change love languages based on how their relationship is going, maybe, or their growth in a relationship. A lot of people don't understand that when a person is growing, things about them change as well. Their love languages, their demeanor, their growth, their success. So I don't think people tend to think that a person's love language would change. Again, the question is, do everybody actually know what the five love languages are? That's a good question. Well, if you didn't know, the five love languages is acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, and receiving gifts. I do believe I've never experienced having my love language be receiving gifts. I've never been that person. I've never wanted to just be someone who just constantly got things or received things or wanted anything. I do believe that acts of service has rendered itself in my life as I've gotten older to the point to where, sometimes you want to be reciprocated in the same way that you do things. So I do believe acts of service has rendered itself in my life at this point. Words of affirmation haven't really been, I think it's been my key point for a while, for a long time, because I didn't have no one pouring into me the way I do now. I didn't have nobody who was cheering for me, being there for me, doing the things that boosted my confidence, my energy, just was there throughout the whole endeavor. I think that's one of the things that I've never let go of. So I do think that's part of my love language still. Physical touch has always been part of my love language. I love a good hug. I love a good kiss. I love just physically being next to me in a drawn setting, whether we're out, whether we're in, it doesn't matter. Any type of physical touch to me is something that I'm not gonna say yearn for, but it's definitely part of my love languages. Now, as far as quality time, I'm definitely a quality time type person. Whether we're going on a date night, whether we're together uh, on a scheduled basis, any time spent is time earned to me. I feel like we never get that back. So having quality time with somebody is very important. If you do not spend quality time with someone, I think that it takes away from the fact of how you guys can interact with each other and things that can develop in the long run. For me. Now, as far as, like I said before, receiving gifts, it's never been a thing for me. I'm big on giving gifts than receiving them for some reason. I don't know. I've just always been that type of person. Although a lot of people change, like I said, throughout their relationship, throughout growth, that your love language may change. Who knows? To me, knowing somebody's love language is important because it gives you another way of knowing who they are as a person. Whether they're an active person, whether they are a person that just they're shut off, or they just don't know how to receive things, or they just don't know how to add things into their realm of life. And getting to know somebody's love language adds on to the growth of your relationship. Why? Because getting to know a person, it doesn't just signify the outskirts of it. It's more internal. Their love languages, what they like to do, what activities they're into. How do you implicate that into your life to where you both are happy and satisfied? To me, that's what it boils down to when it comes to love languages. A lot of people don't think about how important it is to know these particular things, because you can walk around all day long and think that you know a person, you really don't know too much about them. It's not a fact of because you take out the trash or do the dishes that you're feeding their ego or you're feeding them what they want. Some people yearn different things. Some people like flowers. Some people like flowers brought to them every day or maybe twice a week or maybe just because. And it yearns a part of them that we may not surfacely see, but it's internal. That's another thing. You have to learn what your partner wants, what your partner needs, without it being said to you all the time. Conversations are very important. Why? Because you pick bits and pieces of things to where you can understand, okay, maybe she liked this, or maybe he likes that, or maybe we come together collectively and figure things out. Not all people have the same love language. Every season, every era, things change. You grow up, you realize that that's not important no more. Like receiving gifts, it may not be important anymore. But hearing the words of affirmation from someone, them telling you that they love you every day, them telling you that they're proud of you, somebody handing you your flowers because you've done an awesome job in whatever it is that you're doing. That's another thing. People don't think of those things. We can't put ourselves in a category to where it's like, oh, we know. So that's what we're going to go off of. Throughout a relationship, things change constantly. A person, the relationship as itself, scenarios, it's different things that we have to do to implement in our relationship for it to work. Like being there. When I say being there, it means wholeheartedly, not half of you, not partial of you. If I'm talking to you and I'm pouring out maybe something important or something that I want you to indulge in, and you're not paying attention to me, then you're not speaking my love language at that moment, because I feel like I'm taking the time out to tell you this important thing. And for once, paying attention to me is what I want from you at that moment. But if you're not giving me that, then it's kind of like, I wouldn't say necessarily just all the way selfish. You're just not being attentive at that moment. There's different things. We all clash. We all have different realms that we like to dive into. For instance, I'm someone that like to read books. You know, my wife don't like to read books like that, but I read it to her because I want her to implement that into our relationship. And now it works because not only is she intrigued by it, but it's also giving her a reason to dive deeper with me as far as things that I like to do. And vice versa. It's things that she like to do that I'm not into, but I do it because I'm implementing what she likes as well as for her. And again, sometimes we may not know a person's love language, and that's okay. But we get to learn it. We figure it out. We transition into a partnership with our partners to figure out what it is that we like, what it is that we don't like. It's numerous amount of times where a person can ask you, what's your love language? And a lot of people can't answer because they don't know, or they don't try to figure out what it is. Or some people may not have one. You may have all of them. You may have all of them. And that's okay too. Do you think love languages change? Absolutely. They do. I do believe that they do. I do believe that from where you were in the beginning to where you are right now with your growth, that love languages do change. But I do believe that everybody may have a love language that they don't probably implement or pour into. And it's important to pour into it in your relationship. Even if you think that it's silly, it don't make sense, it don't make sense to you because it's not your love language. It's somebody else's. It's somebody else's way of coping with life in general. It's people that walk around right now that's spreading words of affirmation to people. And it may not necessarily just be personal. It could just be poured out to a coworker, a friend, a relative, acts of service all day long. It's a lot of people out here that give their last to a person or buy somebody lunch. Any types of acts of service is part of a love language. And that's part of that person. So we can't take away how somebody expresses themselves or how somebody copes and deals with situations because that's part of them. What we can do is understand, try to be, supportive, and figure out how do you implement yourself into that situation. It's not hard. It's really not hard. Do I feel like maybe love languages should be in the forefront of relationships? Absolutely. Absolutely, because you get to a point in your relationship to where maybe the relationship is dull now, or it's not as has a spark like it did before. You have to figure out what it is that's causing your relationship to shift and where the shift started, or how do you change the shift. Many of times I always tell my wife that no matter what we go through, I never want to be bored in my relationship. So I implement over and over and over again date nights. I highly recommend date nights. It don't matter if you're at home. It don't matter if you're watching TV. It don't matter if you're playing a game. It don't matter if it's personal karaoke. As long as you implement in something, your relationship will always take another step forward. As long as you stay at a standstill in your relationship and you think that what you're doing is good enough, it may not be. And although you have a partner that may not tell you that it's bothering them, or maybe things should change, find it in yourself to implement or change or want better for your relationship. Because again, when I feel like a person is speaking the five love languages to somebody, there's no way your relationship could go wrong. You will become the best of friends. Why? Because y'all both are agreeing to allow each other to be individuals, but at the same time coming together in a partnership to where y'all both can agree that these are the things that you want, and I'm okay and I'm supporting you in those things, and these are the things that you want, and I'm okay and I'm supporting you in those things as well. As long as you both are a team and you both know that when y'all are individuals and y'all doing your own thing, that no matter what, your partner got your back. And it is nothing that you have to worry about. The most important things to me, I would say, is words of affirmation for people. Not a lot of people in this world give people their flowers, whether it's a friend, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's even you and your partner together in a room. The loudest one cheering in the room always got to be your partner for you. It don't matter if you're losing something. It don't matter if you're right or you're wrong. If this is the person that you're with, you expect them to cheer for you every single time. Not turn their back, not, change up on you. Honestly, I feel like this. If you know you cheering for me in the front, when we get home, don't cheer for me. Tell me exactly what it is that I did wrong. Maybe it was something that you didn't like. Because to me, communication means a lot. And if you don't have communication, you don't got the five love languages, because they all consist of some form of communicating. Again, if you don't communicate in your relationship, you're not implementing the five love languages, because they all consist of a way of communicating with your partner, with a friend. It could be love languages and friendships. A lot of people don't know that. It's different realms of this. So to me, I feel like find it in your heart to find that common ground with yourself. So that way, when you're strengthening yourself and know that, okay, this is what I want, this is how I want it, this is what I need, it could be implemented to your partners and your friends, because a lot of people don't understand. If you're not good with yourself, you can't be good for anybody else in no shape or form. No shape or form. In friendships, if you're not good with yourself and standing on your 10 toes, you can't be good in a relationship. How? You're confused. You don't know which way to go with things. And another thing, there's no right or wrong way to love somebody. There's no right or wrong way to love somebody. If your only way of loving somebody is buying them things, it's part of the love languages. That's fine. Make sure your partner is reciprocating of the same situation. Because if not, that's where the miscommunication comes. You can constantly want to buy somebody something because you don't even feel the need to physically touch them or spend quality time with them or want to give them words of affirmation, let alone do anything else outside buying them gifts. Acts of service and receiving gifts to me kind of go hand in hand depending on the situation, because I feel like your acts of service was giving the gift. So sometimes you got to make sure that it's not only about buying somebody something, it's about actually diving deep into knowing what it is that they want, what it is that they really want, and not because they said something or went off of a gesture and you just took that gesture and ran with it. It's very important to know what your partner is saying to you out loud versus silently, because sometimes what you think they're saying out loud may not be exactly what it is, in forms that you feel like, maybe I should go and get this for them. And that's not even necessarily what they're saying. They could be telling you to love on them more. They could be telling you to date them. They could be telling you to pour into them. Different things you have to pay attention to when it comes to relationships. Too many times do I see a person just jumping really fast into something and not knowing exactly what that person wants. It's easy to see when you around people what they're exactly wanting and needing, which is crazy because I feel like if somebody on the outside could see what your partner wants or needs, why is it that it's hard for you to even reciprocate or figure out what it is that your partner's asking you? It's very confusing to me, and I think it's something that people need to actually dive deep into and take a moment and realize, is it me? Am I, moving backwards or am I moving forward? Because if you're moving backwards, you're going to still be stuck in that 6 month frame of, the honeymoon stage of the relationship, and you still thinking that's what your partner wants. When necessarily they done move like 10 steps forward and they on a whole nother realm and situation. Y'all not on the same page. The fact remains of getting on the same page with each other. Right, wrong, or indifferent. You have to get on the same page with your partner, even with friends. When you have a falling out and you say, oh, they just didn't understand what I was talking about. No, they probably did understand. You took from it that they didn't understand because it's not lining up with what you think they should have thought. And that's okay too. But again, a conversation need to be had because a miscommunication, a misunderstanding is it definitely can happen. It definitely can happen. And again, it's very important, guys, to learn if your partner does or if your friends do have love languages. It's very important to learn these things because they will carry you throughout your relationship. It doesn't matter if they change, if you grow together, or if it stays the same. That's okay too. Like I said, some people love languages don't change, and that's okay. It's very much so okay. I mean, what is the right and wrong way to show love languages? I don't think there's no right and no wrong way. I feel like as long as you pouring into your partner, as long as you know what it is that your partner's asking of you or you're taking from the situation, and if you're doing it wholeheartedly, I don't see that there's a wrong way. The right way is to implement it in every situation that you get in, whether it's thoughtfulness, whether it's just because, whether you feel like it's a day you wake up and you just want to do something special. Implement it anyway. Because that's showing that you're paying attention. That's showing that you loving on them properly. That's showing that you respect them. That's showing that you giving them their flowers. You have to make it important to be the loving person that you present yourself to be to your partner in any situation. Show up for them like you would show up for yourself. I've always said, no matter what I go through with my wife, there is no gray lines to me. There is no time and there is no history in a relationship and in a friendship. It's where you are right now. It's always where you are right now. You can't look backwards and you can't go too far ahead. It's where you at in the situation you're in right now. How do you fix where you are right now? Even if it's good, how do you make it better? Even if it's bad, how do you change the bad to a good? That's what I'm saying. When you get to a point to where you feel like you can't even communicate with your partner, you have to start back at the drawing board. You have to go back and figure out what it is, where we went wrong, where the miscommunication happened, and start from there. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see something that you missed and you can implement it and change the whole way the situation played out. That's where I'm at. I can't even recall a time in my situation in my life right now to where me and my wife don't show that five love languages, whether she has two or I have one. There's not a time right now that I can say that we didn't learn each other's love language. We didn't try to implement each other's love language. We didn't try to figure out each other's love language. It's important. It's important. I know it's a lot of people out there who's gonna be like, well, it's not really that important. We've been together for so long. We know everything about each other. That's kind of not true. There's always something to learn about somebody. We grow every day. We get wiser every second of the day. So there's a lot of things that you can implement and you can do to change your situation if you want to. If you want to. If you're laid back and said, nah, everything good over here, we great, then that's good for you. Just make sure your partner feel the same way. Make sure your partner feels the same way you do when you say that you've implemented everything that you can into your situation. Remember, it's not about just you. It's a partnership. That means two. So therefore, if it's just you, maybe your partner's pouring into you and you're not doing the same thing for them. Always incorporate your partnership into your relationship. And when you start doing that, things will start looking different. Most of all, I think that it's just I'm fascinated with love languages because I feel like it's so much to learn about it. It's so many ways you could do things. It's so many ways that you could just implement it into your relationship. So again, guys, I am your host Shay, and this is Shay's Unfiltered Podcast. Let me know what y'all think down below, and I'm out.